Welcome to the SEO.co Search Engine Optimization Podcast. Digital marketing essentials and next level tactics. From offsite and on-site optimization to persuasive selling and everything in between. You'll learn actionable tips on what it takes to outright and outrank your competition.
"14 Alternatives to WordPress and How to Transition Away from WordPress CMS." When it comes to building a website, you need a content management system, or CMS. And for most businesses, WordPress is the first and safest option. But is it really the best option? When you dig into the nuts and bolts and explore the granular details of WordPress development, you may soon realize that it's not as perfect as it seems. But don't let that frustrate you or lead you astray. Because for everything that WordPress is not, there's a CMS alternative to fit your every want and need. It's just a matter of selecting the right system. In this article, we're going to walk you through precisely how to do this. The lowdown on WordPress. First launched in 2003, WordPress has experienced quite the growth curve. It's now considered the most popular and widely used CMS on the planet, powering an impressive 37.6% of all websites on the Internet. By comparison, Joomla, which is the second most popular CMS, powers just 2.6% of websites. Initially created and developed by Mike Little and Matt Mullenweg, who launched it out of necessity when their blog software was discontinued, WordPress is built on MySQL and PHP. It's also licensed under the GPL v2, which is just a fancy way of saying it's free for anyone to use and modify. At the time it was launched, WordPress didn't have much competition. Today, the CMS landscape is littered with competitors. Yet despite this, WordPress still reigns supreme in almost every statistical category. Here are a few interesting stats for you. WordPress 5.2, the latest version, has been downloaded more than 16.7 million times. 17 blog posts are published on WordPress every single second. Each month, there are more than 409 million users viewing over 20 billion WordPress pages. Why is WordPress so popular, you might ask? Well, it comes down to a few reasons. It's extremely user-friendly and easy to use. WordPress is well documented and there's a massive online community ready and able to help with questions you may have. WordPress is very customizable, which makes it useful in a variety of formats. It's easy to find a WordPress developer. WordPress relies on very common programming languages like HTML, PHP, CSS, and JavaScript, which makes it simple. There's a high degree of flexibility when it comes to budgeting. WordPress is very SEO-friendly, which takes off some of the burden on this front. The system is constantly being updated, which ensures users stay on the cutting edge. WordPress is free to use. In other words, it checks all of the boxes. It's budget-friendly, easy to use, and comes with ample support. Is there anything not to love? Well, about that. As attractive as WordPress is, it's not perfect. And there may actually be a compelling case for using another CMS. 8 reasons WordPress might not be the answer for you from a business perspective. There's a reason WordPress only powers 14.7% of total websites, a far cry below the 37.6% watermark of total websites it powers on the Internet. It has some shortcomings and it's only fair that we explore them in further detail. 1. Security. WordPress is often billed as a highly secure platform. And for the most part it is. But it actually has some flaws and shortcomings that, when not properly accounted for, can wreak havoc. The number one strike against WordPress on the security front is that it's an easy and obvious target for hackers. Hackers know just how common WordPress is, so they're more likely to dedicate their time and energy to identifying and exploiting flaws. And once a flaw is discovered on one site, it's possible that the same flaw exists for millions of other sites, including yours. 2. Plugins. One of the key selling points of WordPress is that it has so many different plugins. These plugins provide rich functionality, assisting with everything from design to SEO to, ironically enough, security. But with so many plugins, there are going to be security vulnerabilities and issues. The problem with plugins is that anyone can create one and put it up on the marketplace. This includes hobbyists who mess around with dev work and might not truly know what they're doing. While most plugins are fine, each new one you install on your site creates one additional entry point for hackers to potentially exploit. On top of that, there's the risk that a plugin developer could stop updating it, leaving you exposed. We're not against plugins, but these are some things to consider. 3. Updates. WordPress is renowned for frequently updating its system to patch security issues and provide users with the best possible user experience. However, there is one major downside to these updates. If you're using a customized theme, there's always the risk that the new version could break your website. Not good. 4. Support. As mentioned, WordPress is a free, open-source software developed by a community of people. This is a fantastic idea, and one that works really well for web development. Unfortunately, this can create issues on the support side of things. While you can always find answers to questions on forums, Facebook groups, websites, and YouTube videos, there is no official customer support or development team. Thus, when something breaks or there's an issue, getting it solved can prove to be a time-consuming feat. 5. Migration. As you know, every website is hosted on a third-party server known as a web host. If you ever need to switch website hosts, doing so with WordPress can be a bit more finicky and time-consuming than with others. The complexity of the site means it could take days or weeks to migrate a site compared to just minutes for many custom websites. 6. Compatibility. Custom-built websites are developed in a sequential fashion that allows them to be compatible with all versions of browsers and devices if desired. And while this sort of responsive design is certainly possible with WordPress, it usually requires some extra work. This makes it more time-consuming and technical for the average user. 7. Themes. If you're looking for a free website theme, WordPress has a handful of attractive options to choose from. In fact, there's an entire library of default designs that can be downloaded with the click of a button. But because of the popularity of WordPress as a CMS, it's hard to use one of these themes and make your website look custom. Even if you tweak color schemes, copy, and visuals, your website will still look like a million other sites on the web. The solution is to buy a custom theme or have one developed for you, but again, this is extra work. 8. Unlimited logins. Going back to the security theme, WordPress has a default setting that allows an unlimited number of login attempts. Left unchanged, this is a bit dangerous. This means there's no lockout mechanism like there is with an iPhone or Gmail account. If you forget your password, you can try 100 different combinations and it won't lock you out. If you're prone to forgetting passwords, this is good news. But you have to remember that it works both ways. All a hacker has to do is infect your website with a tiny bug and he can then force his way into your page with an automated password code cracking tool that tries thousands of combinations until it ultimately zeroes in on the right one. But that's not all. Even if the hacker can't force his way into your site, the force of the attack can still overload your server and render it useless for a while. 14 CMS alternatives to WordPress. Okay, so now that we've meticulously outlined why WordPress might not be the dreamy CMS that you've always imagined it to be, let's explore some of the alternatives. In other words, if you aren't going to use WordPress, what should you use? Here are a few highly recommended options.
Thank you for joining us on the SEO.co podcast. We appreciate your time. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and visit SEO.co for more resources based on today's topic, as well as access to more podcast episodes to help you improve your site's long-term SEO success.